I discovered that my fiancé was cheating on me with my mother, and shockingly, he is the father of my baby brother. My fiancé had been having an affair with my mother for 4 years. Things got worse when, 4 years ago, my mother became pregnant after a drunken one-night stand. My fiancé offered to help care for the baby, which caused a significant financial burden. My mother asked me to work extra hours to support her, and I exhausted myself trying to help. I often questioned why she wouldn't seek child support from the father, but she always had an excuse. The stress of working 2 jobs took a toll on me, and I frequently cried to my fiancé, who comforted me, knowing full well he was the father of my brother. When I finally discovered the truth, my heart broke. I was in shock and didn't know how to react. Summoning the courage to confront him, I called my fiancé, Liam, downstairs and told him I knew the truth. He saw the messages on his old iPad and his face immediately fell. He didn't even try to deny it. He confessed to sleeping with my mother, not just at the time of conception, but multiple times, often when I was out with friends or on trips he encouraged me to take to relieve my stress. He admitted that during one of my trips, he slept with my mother several times. Realizing he had an affair with my mother while I was away made me feel utterly betrayed. I had been texting him, missing him, while he was in bed with her. Liam told me that the last time they were intimate was when they discovered she was pregnant with David, my little brother. They decided to keep it a secret to avoid destroying our family. His words were like daggers to my heart. I told him I couldn't do this anymore. He begged and pleaded for me to stay. But I told him this betrayal was too much to bear. An affair was bad enough, but with my mother was a different level of disrespect. I quickly packed our bags and called one of my closest friends to ask if we could stay with her. She agreed. Before leaving, I told Liam to inform my mother that I never wanted to speak to her again, and she was dead to me. It hurt to lose my mother and fiancé in one day. They were my family. But I couldn't stay around them after what they had done. As I drove to my friend's house, I kept seeing a mini Liam smiling back at me in the rearview mirror. The innocent face of my brother brought me so much pain. I felt sick knowing I had cared for my brother, unaware he was my fiancé's child. After a few days at my friend Stacy's house, Liam showed up. They were talking loudly in the driveway as I pulled in. He ran up to my car and begged for another chance, apologizing repeatedly for cheating on me with my mother. I told him that no matter what he did, I didn't want to be with him anymore. He insisted he hadn't touched her since the day she found out she was pregnant, over 4 years ago, but I didn't care. My mind was made up. Liam then pleaded with me, saying he'd do anything to get back together, even suggesting therapy so we could be a family again. I told him that wasn't necessary as I wasn't going to reconcile with him. He then asked if he could at least see his son, and I agreed, allowing him to see David whenever he wanted. He requested to have David for the weekend, and to establish consistent partial custody. He swore he no longer wanted to be with my mom, but I was too angry to agree. He had disregarded my needs and feelings, so why should I care about his? Frustrated, he told me this wasn't over, got in his car, and sped off. While staying with Stacy, I hadn't told her the full reason for my breakup with Liam. After that encounter, she was speechless. I led her back inside and explained everything, making sure David was in his room so he wouldn't overhear. Stacy was shocked and perplexed but offered her support, assuring me we could stay as long as we needed. She also understood my decision not to give Liam partial custody. That night, I felt heard and comforted by Stacy, who validated my feelings. I decided my family and friends needed to know the truth, especially since I didn't want Liam spreading lies about me. I posted my story in our family's Facebook group, sharing screenshots of the messages from Liam's iPad. The group chat erupted in chaos. One of my aunts accused me of lying, while others supported me, saying they now understood why I cut off my mom and fiancé. My grandparents, who were particularly close to my mom, insisted I delete the screenshots and stop spreading what they called lies about their daughter. I responded by challenging them to ask my mom who the real father was if it wasn't Liam. They didn't reply. My cousin, feeling bad for me, offered a room in her house, and I accepted, not wanting to burden Stacy with my family drama any longer. My cousin lived a few states away, which seemed like the perfect place for David and me to start anew. As I began moving in with my cousin, I shared my story on Instagram. This post caused a stir within our shared friend group. Some sided with me, but others, mainly Liam's fraternity brothers, doubted my story and defended him. The comments under my post, which garnered more attention than I intended, were filled with people criticizing Liam and sending hate messages to his DMs, leading him to deactivate his account. Liam's parents then contacted me, expressing their disappointment over Liam losing someone like me. They said he was very depressed and tried to convince me that Liam was a good guy who had been faithful for over 4 years. They urged me to take him back. I told them I didn't need to hear this and reiterated that I had already heard it from Liam himself. Despite their pleas, I firmly told them no and asked them not to contact me about Liam anymore. I was determined to move on from him. Over the next few weeks, my mom and my ex constantly tried to contact me. I blocked their numbers, but they began calling from different throwaway numbers or sent family members to contact me. I didn't want to hear it. Liam tried to get our shared friends to DM me on Instagram, always asking if I would hear him out. My answer was always no. I didn't want to block my friends like I did Liam's parents, but I had to look out for myself. One day, my mom found out I had moved from Stacy's house to my cousin's house. She showed up and rang the doorbell. I told my cousin not to answer, but my mom wouldn't stop. After ringing the doorbell 20 more times, I finally opened the door and threatened to call the cops if she didn't leave. She said she wanted to talk, but I told her there was nothing to discuss and tried to close the door. She stopped it with her foot and apologized, claiming nothing happened between her and Liam after David was born. I told her again that I wanted both of them out of my life, although deep down, I missed my mom. We were best friends before all this. She had always been there for me growing up, but having a child with my fiancé was too much to bear in our relationship. I asked her to respect my wishes and left. That night, she sent me a long message, apologizing and blaming her grief for the affair. She said Liam reminded her of my father, who passed away in a car accident before I could remember. She said Liam made her feel the way my father did, and in her grief, she couldn't think straight. Despite this explanation, I still didn't find it a valid reason for her actions. The long text felt like a punch to the gut, leaving me more confused and in pain. In the midst of all this chaos, my ex-fiancé pursued legal action to get partial custody of his son. The court proceedings were exhausting and emotionally draining. I felt he was doing it out of spite, still wanting a reason to talk to me. Despite everything, the judge granted him partial custody since he was technically the father. This was another blow to my shattered heart. Liam would take David for the summer, and during the school year, David would be with me. Since it was June, the judge said that from then until early August, David would stay with Liam. As we left the courtroom, David ran to me, saying he didn't want to live with Liam. I held back tears and told him it would only be for a little while, and that I'd call him every day. Liam snatched David away, accusing me of trying to turn his child against him. David cried and screamed, and I hugged him, telling him I loved him. Later that day, I watched them drive off, wiping away my tears. I decided to use this time to invest in myself and be the best big sister to David when he returned. With my personal life in ruins, I focused on my career as a nurse. I started considering moving to a new city to start fresh and leave the painful memories behind. It was daunting, but I knew I needed to do something to move on. My cousin had been a pillar of support, helping me save money and providing emotional support. With her help, I saved enough money to not worry about needing a job for the first few months. I moved to Georgia, found a nice home with plenty of land for David, and began job hunting. I updated my resume, applied for jobs, and started therapy to process everything. While packing, I found an old photo of my family from before everything fell apart. I realized that while my family had shattered, I still had the power to build a new life for myself and for David. It was time to take control of our future.